and welcome to another Micro-Air EasyStart installation video. Hi, my name is Matteo Giovanetti, one of the electrical engineers from the EasyStart development team. I'm here again to show you how to install the EasyStart. This time we're going to be installing it on a 3-ton home unit here, and we will be using the EasyStart 368 model, specifically the ASY 368-X48-Blue. This model works for 3-ton through 4-ton home units. If you have a 5 or 6-ton home unit, you would use the ASY 368-X72-Blue. And if you have a unit that is smaller than 3 tons, like for our friends who have already installed EasyStarts on their RV units, you would use the ASY-364-X36-Blue. Since the last time we shot a video, many things have changed with EasyStart. Dramatic improvements as we continually obsess over making this product better and better. Now EasyStart is UL approved and it has Bluetooth, and we'll talk a little bit about those later on. And as is always the case with these videos, I don't want to take too much time where it's not necessary. So in the description box below this video, you will find timestamps for the various portions of what we're going to do today. Specifically, we're going to do some before and after testing, and then I'm going to show you the wiring step by step, and then we will be done. So let's get started. So first we're going to gain access to the electric box for the unit we're going to install the EasyStart into. Most units have a corner electric box similar to this one, and you'll know it by where the electrical power comes in, as well as the thermostat wires. So, and make sure you have the breaker turned off before you access inside the box. You've got to disconnect outside, as this unit does. It's easy access. So power's off, remove the cover, see what we got inside. Oh, we had a lizard. Welcome to Florida. So in here we have the contactor and the run capacitor. So the first order of business here is to identify the wiring. And according to this wiring diagram, the compressor common wire is black, the compressor run wire is red, and the start winding is purple or violet. So and here's at the run capacitor, you'll see this is a dual run capacitor. So it has both a common connection L2, which is this orange wire here, and then it has the fan start winding, which is this brown wire, the condenser fan, and then there's the purple start winding for the compressor. So it's important to identify those points, as well as the L1 and L2 on the contactor, because that's where you're going to be wiring the EasyStart. So before we do the wiring, we want to do a quick before test. So I'm going to install a peak current ammeter onto the compressor common wire here, so we can measure how many amps this compressor draws during a regular startup without EasyStart installed. Okay, so we have a peak current ammeter that you may recognize from the very first RV installation video we did in 2016. This is a homemade device that we developed at Micro-Air that captures the instantaneous peak of the compressor startup much better than your typical off-the-shelf clamp-on ammeters. Newer clamp-on ammeters also have inrush or peak modes as well that do a pretty good job, but this device tells you the absolute truth. So what I'm going to do here is I have turned power back on, and I have the indoor fan running continuously, even though the thermostat is set to the off mode. So the evaporator has air running past it, so I don't have any risk of causing freeze-ups while I do this. What I'm going to do is use a plastic pen and start the compressor, and I'll be doing this throughout the video in order to do the demonstrations once we have the EasyStart installed. So here we go. We're going to start the compressor without EasyStart and see what the peak current is. All right, so there it goes, running it for a little bit here, and then we'll stop it. So as you can see, the peak starting amps for this compressor is 77.4. And as it turns out, on the data plate label on the outside of this unit, the value is in fact, shows a lock rotor amperage of 77. So right on the dot. So this is what your compressor normally draws during startup without EasyStart installed. This is a lot of current, obviously, and this will not be supported by most limited power sources like a generator or perhaps a solar inverter if you have that on your house. So now let's go ahead and install EasyStart and see what it does afterward. So first of all, it's always best to start off determining first where you would like to mount the EasyStart. In this particular case, we have a very open electric box area that is actually large enough to fit the EasyStart 368 inside. If you can get it inside of the electric box, that is preferred. However, if you can't, no worries. EasyStart is IP65 rated, it's weatherproof, and it has UV resistant plastic, so if worse comes to worse, you could in fact mount the EasyStart on the cover, right here, or right here, and pass the harness through a knockout in the bottom of the electric box and finish the wiring. So in this case, I'm going to mount it on the inside using some self-tapping sheet metal screws, number 10 in this case, and I'm going to install 2 in the opposite corners since the two fasteners is more than enough to hold this EasyStart in place. Okay, so the EasyStart is mounted. We recommend that when you mount the EasyStart, you do it with the wire exit facing down, or you can mount it on its side like this, or you could mount it flat like this. We don't recommend that you mount it like this. Although this is a watertight gland, liquid-tight fitting, we don't recommend that you do this since water might pool up there if it's outside. So it's always best to mount it this way if you can. We're ready to start the wiring now. And in this case, I've already cut back this harness to be much shorter than it normally is. This harness is typically 32 inches long, so you've got plenty of harness even if you mounted this outside. But in this case, I didn't need all that extra wire, so I cut it and stripped it back. So we have 4 connections here that are going to be very easy, and I'm going to go through them now, and then we'll speed up as I do the stripping and crimping so that you don't have to wait for me to get that done. But first of all, let's talk about the 4 wires. This black wire is going to go to the compressor common, which corresponds to the L1 pole on the contactor here, which also has a black wire. Since this is a number 14 wire, I'm going to use a blue quick disconnect since I have other male disconnects available on the output of this contactor. The next connection that I'm going to do is the L2, which is this white wire. The L2 is this pole right here, and that is also, we have a choice here. We could either use a screw ring terminal or we can use a quick disconnect. In this case, given this is a 3-ton unit, I'm going to use a yellow quick disconnect so that I can connect the white wire to one of these available points. The third wire that we're going to connect is going to be up here on the run capacitor. It's tough to see, but this is a 3-terminal run capacitor. This orange wire is going to go to where the start winding connects, and as we've already determined, there are 3 terminals on this particular start capacitor, one of which is purple, has a purple wire. That's the start capacitor, and it's toward the back. This cluster in the front turns out to be the L2 common. This wire here actually goes to the fan, and this wire is from the L2 of the contactor, and then the brown wire is of course the fan. Be careful not to put this wire on the fan start winding. Make sure it goes on the compressor start winding, which is in the back. Last but not least, we have the brown wire. The brown wire is the only splice connection, and that ends up having to go to the run winding of the compressor, all by itself and isolated. Presently the run winding is connected to the L2 terminal here. We're going to disconnect this And then once it's disconnected, we are going to splice the brown wire to the run winding. I neglected to mention that for the start winding we're going to use a blue quick disconnect as well, since this is a 14 gauge wire. For the run winding splice, you've got a choice. You can either use a butt splice like this, or you could use an end splice like this, whatever is appropriately sized. This is a 10 gauge wire, as is the white wire. So you need to have a yellow butt splice or an end splice that's capable of splicing, in this case, a 10 gauge and a number 14 here, this particular unit. Excuse me, this is a 12 gauge wire with a 10 gauge wire. So let's go ahead and get that done. Okay, so the wiring is completed. Let's go over it one more time before we fire this up again and do our after testing. As you can see, the black wire from the EasyStart is going to the L1 terminal on the, or it's actually labeled T1, the output side of the contactor. Obviously the main power comes in down below. This is L1 and L2, T1 and T2 as they are labeled. So black wire to T1 on the contactor. The white wire goes to T2. In this case they labeled it T3, not sure why they did that. Then the orange wire, I loosened and lowered the run cap here temporarily just so you can see it. The orange wire on the EasyStart is going to that terminal cluster that corresponds to the start winding on the compressor, which we know it's this one because it has the purple wire on it, and if this run cap wasn't so rusty, you would also see that that terminal cluster is labeled HERM, H-E-R-M, for hermetic compressor. The fan winding is now in the back, and this is the common L2 cluster over here. We recommend, just while we're talking about this, even though this L2 node is the same as this L2 or T2 node, we don't recommend that you put the white wire for the EasyStart on this cluster. It's better to put it on the contactor because you don't want to have all of the compressor's current passing through this one terminal cluster, since it may overheat it and damage the run capacitor or reduce its life. It's always best to put the L2 connection for EasyStart, the white wire connection, on the T2 or L2 output side of the contactor. And then last but not least, we have the brown wire from the EasyStart spliced to the run winding. In this case it's a red wire. I chose to use the butt splice since it was in line and convenient, and now wiring is dressed nicely and we're ready to start the test. So let's go ahead and hook the ammeter up again and see what happens. Okay, so the EasyStart is fully installed and has already been learned on this compressor. The very first 5 starts that EasyStart carries out, it optimizes its internal parameters to tune itself with the compressor it is connected to, so it can attain the maximum starting surge reduction. I've already gone ahead and run those 5 starts on this particular compressor, and we are ready to do start number 6, and you will see the net result of EasyStart's optimization, and this is how EasyStart will perform for the life of the unit. If you ever did need to reinitiate the learning procedure, you could do that via the Bluetooth app, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So let's go ahead and start the EasyStart up now that it is installed and learned. I'm going to use my trusty pen again here, and here we go. The initial current you see is that through the run capacitor. 5 seconds later, EasyStart initiates its startup, and there you go. We've got 19.7 amps for a peak starting current. That is almost a 75% reduction from that original 77.4 amp peak that we saw without EasyStart installed. That's quite dramatic. This can start on a limited power source without any problem at all. Now, once EasyStart is up and running, you actually get a lot of other benefit too. EasyStart continues to monitor the compressor right now and checks for things like overcurrent conditions that might occur because of the low voltage, or the condenser fan fails, or there's a bunch of leaves or other obstructions preventing airflow through the condenser. Also, if the compressor stalls or there's an open overload protector condition, EasyStart will disconnect power and wait 3 minutes before it reinitiates the soft start. Most importantly, especially for people who are on utility power, if there's a brief brownout or a blackout and power immediately comes back on again, then EasyStart will not restart the compressor, as I can demonstrate here. Turn off power, immediately turn it back on. You hear the condenser fan come back on, but EasyStart is not restarting. And over in the EasyStart, you can see that there is a fault condition that is currently being flashed, which is an indicator of a power interruption. Here are LEDs that flash on EasyStart that I can show you here. I'm going to move the camera while I'm holding this. You can see that there's a fault LED here that's displaying, and it's flashing 3 times, which indicates that the EasyStart is actually faulted, and 3 flashes indicates a power interruption fault is occurring. EasyStart will restart again in 3 minutes, and all will be fine. Okay, so the EasyStart is installed, and I put the electric box cover back on. All is set to go, and all is looking good. So there you have it. Let's talk about the Bluetooth application for a moment on the smartphone. I'm going to put up some screenshots on the screen right now and talk about them briefly. The Bluetooth app called EasyStart is downloadable from the Apple Store or from Google Play, depending on whether or not you have an Apple or an Android phone. And you will see in the screenshots there are 6 screens that you have on the app. The first screen is a connection screen where you can specify the unique ID of the EasyStart, connect to it via Bluetooth, and then on the second screen is the status screen. Oh, big dragonfly. And that status screen will show you the last start peak and the fault condition, if there is one, line frequency, the live current, all kinds of great information. The third screen is where you could reinitiate the relearn process along with some other settings. We don't recommend that you adjust any of those settings unless doing so under the advisement of one of Micro-Air's customer service representatives. The fourth screen is actually quite powerful. It's called the diagnose screen. And while connected to the EasyStart with your phone, you can actually upload to Micro-Air the diagnostic information from your EasyStart. This is very powerful because let's say you do have an issue with the EasyStart down the road, or you're having trouble installing it, you can actually get the information in front of a customer service rep who can then help you. When you upload the data, you have to specify your name and your phone number and your email so we can get back in touch with you. That's the purpose for that. The fourth screen is a screen where you can actually disable certain fault conditions. We don't recommend you do that, of course, unless you're being told to do so by one of the representatives. And the last screen is the update screen, where in the event we do happen to find a bug in the firmware, you and everyone else can upload new firmware over the air to their EasyStart using that feature. No other soft starter in the world has this capability. very powerful, and the Bluetooth has enabled us to put this EasyStart into the hands of more people all over the world, and it's almost like we're there by their side helping them do the install like I just did here. So that's the Bluetooth application. There are detailed instructions for that online as well in the knowledge bank on the Micro-Air website, so you can check it out there. And one other important thing I want to point out and put up on the screen now is a chart that I had made where I looked up a whole bunch of air conditioning units and averaged the currents for what the typical starting amps would be for various size home units and what the running current would be for various size home units. With that information, and with the fact that EasyStart on average produces 65 to 75% reduction in starting amps compared to the locked rotor amperage, we were able to record and show that the generator size that you would need with EasyStart installed is substantially smaller. It's almost more than a factor of 2 smaller in capacity than you would need if you did not have EasyStart. So for example, with this 3-ton unit, without EasyStart installed, just to be able to deal with that 77 amp startup surge, you would need at least a 12 kW generator. However, with EasyStart installed, you only need a 5 to 5500 watt generator. Tremendous difference. The cost savings alone, going from 12 kW to 5 kW, more than pays for the EasyStart itself. It's very important that people understand that value. If you already have the generator and you've already, say it's oversized, installing EasyStart still benefits you, because now you can start the compressor, or the compressor can go in ahead and start on its own when the thermostat calls for it, under conditions now where more appliances in the house are already running. You won't have to power manage quite as strictly if EasyStart is installed versus it not being installed. So there's another benefit. And of course, lastly, there's a huge benefit to EasyStart when on utility power as well. We talked about a little bit of that, especially when it comes to brownouts and power interruptions. And the fact that you're soft starting the compressor most certainly extends the life of the compressor and the whole air conditioning unit. So there's huge benefit to EasyStart even on utility power. So there you have it, folks. Micro-Air EasyStart, available to you. Thanks for watching this video, and enjoy your EasyStart.